this out together. Now, the parent functions are basically, sorry, you didn't get one.
Yo, we don't condone violence.
Now, the parent functions are kind of like the starting point, kind of like what the function just looks like. Did you get one, Bennett?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, he's put it away already. All right, so like y equals c or y equals some constant or a number. What kind of line is that? Y equals c. So y equals like 5. What would that graph look like?
Straight.
It'd just be straight. Just be a flat, boring line. Okay.
I'm so smart.
Guys, focus here. So y equals c is just a flat, straight line. I can draw a flat, straight line. Super straight. Okay, zero fun. All right. Now, the reason why we're writing these on the top is because these types of graphs will all move using these rules that we have down below. So we're going to discuss all these different rules and how, like, so if I added a number to that, it would shift up. You know, like this is, it would change the same way. Now, y equals x, what does that line look like? Diagonal, yeah, though, yeah. So it's going to be like a diagonal.
Sorry.
Just love when he's around.
Or at least I want to get in the last test. Sorry, wait, did you get on the long test?
All right.
I have 15.
Yeah.
How about x to the second? That's the u, that's the parabola. You cannot get 15%.
I was gonna say, when you tell me, I know that's not what you said.
The only thing I got wrong was.
Okay. All right. You guys, y equals x to the third. Yeah, I don't know why you need to make that noise, but I almost always have students go, like, make a funny noise with it. It's like a little zigzag. But it basically is if I could take my parabola and like flip half of it down, like the parabola like fell off, it's like a little hook and like flip down. So, little zigzag there. Does anyone know the absolute value? It's a B. It's like a perfectly straight B. So as much as this is supposed to be a curve, these are supposed to be like two straight lines going each way. And then square root of x, you probably did on the back side of your worksheet.
Yeah, just the one line.
Yeah, it kind of looks like a parabola on its side, but it's only the one half of it because since the square root is considered to be positive if we don't write a sign, so it's just the positive half of it. So it's not the other half of the parabola, so it's just that top half, like you were throwing a ball and then it goes like into orbit. All right, so what this chart's gonna do is basically it would take all these different graphs and it would move them around. Now, the same thing also can happen with sine graphs, cosine graphs. Those get a little bit funky when you move them left and right because of the way the angles work with sine and cosine, but it still has that same movement. So we're going to talk about a function and how we're going to change it, and they're going to give us like a little example here. And this is going to be helpful. So if I ask you how did the graph move from the original, you'd be able to tell me, oh, it moved up, down, left, right, got skinnier, wider, whatever happened. So it says we're adding a constant outside the function. So I'm taking a function and I'm adding a number to it. I'm going to call it just k. And so they give you an example. If I took x squared and added 4, so I took my x squared graph and added 4, what would happen to the graph? It'd go up 4. And so it's specifically the number that we chose. So I'm going to say, instead of saying up 4, because that's an example, I'm going to say it's going to go up k units. Because that's the k I'm adding. So if it's 4, if it's 5, if it's 23, it doesn't matter. It's going to go up that much. So that graph would just shift up 4. All right, that being said, subtracting a constant, down.
Yeah.
All right, so this is where it got a little bit different. You guys saw this on your worksheet as well. And typically the way this is shown is with parentheses. So typically now this means now we're going to add or subtract a number inside the parentheses. Now the way I showed it here, it's just inside the root. So kind of understanding it's inside the function. So I'm going to switch colors here. So it says adding a value with x. So I'm going to do plus h is the one we usually do for inside the function. What did this one do? It actually moves it to the left. It does kind of the opposite that I would expect if I just looked at this and not knowing any better based off those last two. I would say that'd probably be moved to the right 4 because it's a positive 4. But inside the function does the opposite of what we're expecting, which is kind of strange. So this one's actually going to move to the left h units. So this would be left 4. And that's because it's inside the function, it's like having that done to it, but it's the one that's always the opposite of maybe what you're expecting. So be careful with that. So then this one is obviously right. So be careful with those.
Oh, nice.
Be careful with the board moving.
Yeah.
And do you guys see the difference between those? Can you tell that it's like inside these, like I said, there's usually parentheses on this one. So it's kind of like a good way to think about it, that those are typically in parentheses. All right. What happens when you multiply the function by a negative value? So like, and I don't remember if this, over the x-axis? Yeah, so then the other one goes the y. So outside the function, so the x-axis, you guys, is the horizontal one. So that's going to flip the graph down. X-axis. So I usually say like flip up or down is kind of the way I think of it. So whatever it was doing before, it's just going to flip. Now when the negative is inside the function, this one looks a little bit different. Typically, again, this one usually has parentheses or some sort of grouping symbols. What does this one do? The y-axis. Now this one doesn't look any different when you do it on certain functions. Like so a parabola, if you flip it over the y-axis, it just looks the same. But it does look different in like something like this, and I think you guys got that to happen. So this one flips like left and right, like so it like kind of rotates this way. And again, we talked about this a little bit when we were talking about sine and cosine. Just these same things kind of happened with our sine and cosine graphs. They flipped up and down. They started in a different spot. Now the next two are also ones that I think they're kind of backwards of maybe what you'd expect. So like 5x squared, what happens to this graph? It actually gets closer, it gets skinnier. So the way I think about it is, it's almost like if you're a parabola, it's like reaching higher, faster. Yep.
So I had phrased the last.
Yeah, how'd you phrase it?
So for
Yeah.
a larger than 1, it's a vertical stretch, but for a between 0 and 1, it's horizontally stretch.
Yeah, so they use those words, and sometimes that's confusing. A vertical stretch, think about you're stretching your arms up way up high, so vertical stretch. It's getting skinnier. So A is bigger than 1, that's important.
how I thought of it is in which direction you need to stretch the parabola to result in that shape.
Yeah, that's a
So
good
is
way.
it N or
So yeah, typically this is like gonna be skinnier.
Also, maybe please use the bathroom at this time.
Yeah.
Proceed.
So it's like a skinnier graph. It gets skinnier, it gets bigger, faster. But when that A value tends to be in between 0 and 1, so less than 1 but bigger than 0, because once it becomes less than 0, then it's negative. Like a half, a fifth, that's a really wide graph. It's like it relaxed, like so. Instead of getting bigger faster, it's getting bigger less quickly. So when A is in between 0 and 1, then it's a horizontal stretch. So it gets like wider. Think about like relaxed a little bit. Parabola kind of slumps a little bit. All right, there are other things that can happen to our graphs than just these. However, I think it's good for us to start thinking about them, and we're gonna do our homework that is associated with this is just gonna ask you to like maybe move a graph that isn't even a graph we have an equation of, and just kind of shift it around, just based off of some of these rules. So I'm hoping that you're just kind of getting comfortable with them. It sounds like some of you guys have heard them before, seen them before. It's probably not brand new to you. And I just realized I don't think I changed. I need to change one of them for you. But, oh, let me do announcements. Or forget.
We should take them outside. Yes.
I was gonna play a Nick Jr.
I want to get this.
Nick Jr. It's all your like favorite.
Bless.
Okay, so boys soccer's is at home today against Key Wascom. Any students interested in wrestling? In esports, JD Smash is playing today against Seymour and Overwatch and Hillsborough. Oh, I guess JD Smash and JD Overwatch, those are different teams. Sorry, confused for a moment. Students, any students interested in wrestling this year should attend an informational meeting tomorrow, Friday, October 15th, during lunch in the high school commons. If you're a current wrestler, new wrestler, or someone who's thinking about joining, please attend. Students, you can sign up now to work on the fitness center during AR Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, or Friday, as long as you're in good academic standing. Sign up in the office for next week. Going outside is weather dependent during lunch. If it's raining, students will not be permitted outside. Once the winter temperatures hit, there's not going, I guess you will not be going outside when temperatures fall into the single digits. You guys are troopers out there, but we're gonna limit you.
Even if I bring
But
my
they're not
snow
saying
pants?
this yet.
No, it's not rainy either.
What if I bring
Snow
snow
days?
pants?
No, what if I bring like snow pants?
Yeah, like the good old days.
Well, they're not saying you can't go outside in the snow. I think it's more like just really sloppy. I think we're worried about you jumping back in.
Snow pants.
Alright. Okay guys, there's a bunch of different colleges coming to visit in the next few days here. Monday, Marion University is here during AR. Tuesday, this is next week, Ripon College is here during AR. Thursday, next week, Inspire Sheboygan from 9 to noon. Thursday, Concordia University is here during AR. And then Friday, Diplomatic Security virtual presentation during AR. I don't know if what diplomatic security is. Sounds kind of interesting. No, maybe that's just a good job. I don't know. All right. So let me get you guys. We're really early. Okay, hang on a second. Real quick, just so you know, tomorrow we're gonna review for our chapter 3 test. No, tomorrow we're gonna review for our chapter 3 test, which will probably be Monday. But the topics, we'll talk about those tomorrow. We'll make a cheat sheet tomorrow. So kind of hanging on to some of these things that are important. And then we'll start our last chapter, our last full chapter of the semester that we
Yeah.
get in. All right.
That means you guys are leading, so
Yeah.
stop cheering.
Then they
You're
leave
gonna
us.
see.
All right. Real quick. So there's one that I need to fix on here. So for your homework, I want to change number 4 because I'm not going to do ones like number 4. So let me let's alter this. So on number 4, let's change it to oh shoot. Hey, I don't want to do that. Okay, so when you guys get your worksheet, if you guys could change number 4, please. Yeah, you guys should be good on homework. You probably have way too much time, but I also didn't want to do this and review in one day. So. Oh, I forgot. You wanted to go outside. What?
We ignore the lines that are on here for the grass. This like.
No, okay, so you're taking that graph and shifting it.
Oh, okay.
So they drew a graph for you, that's their f of x function, and you're gonna shift that graph. It's like a weird little graph that doesn't really have an equation that you're comfortable with. But I'd like you guys to change number 4 to this, and you're basically taking these graphs, they have the original drawn there for you, and then you're moving it. Okay?
Stop.
I don't know.
Let's get it.
Yeah, I would.
And then some
Just
of you
for
want.
like.
We won't be able to go outside.
for like
I
10
didn't,
minutes.
just a